Yo, hope you're doing good. We are down here in Ottawa, uh, probably about 20 minutes or so from where the Freedom Convoy is. And we were just down there kind of like this is our first day for myself and Ruby. We decided to increase our presence here on the ground a little bit so that we're able to kind of get a little bit more of a story, a little bit more of what's going on. Our team has been doing an incredible job down here. And we're just excited to continue to cover this event in a very meaningful way. And, we did we got in here early a little bit and kind of did our lay of the land. We walked through some of the key areas in front of Parliament Hill, in front of Parliament in general. You have basically a massive stretch of road where you probably have between 80 to 100 trucks. Now, the reason for that lower number is because they've blocked out most of the trucks from being able to enter that area. In and around the rest of the city, near the downtown core, you have tons of side streets that have, from what we saw tonight, we saw anywhere between 20 trucks on some side streets to maybe 30 or 40 trucks on some side streets. And there's lots of side streets that have these trucks. And from what we're told, and some of our other team has been gathering this information, there's probably something close to anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 trucks around the whole area. Now, there's not anywhere where you're going to see, those amount of trucks, all in one go. It's just not how it's working. The police have really, really spread out the trucks. But we kind of just went down there to get a lay of the land today, and I wanted to share some sentiment about what we saw, how things felt, what the overall vibe was. And I'll say this right off the top, like I'm not coming to you right now as a pure objective journalist. This is, going to contain some of my, thoughts, feelings, and opinions about, how I felt during this pandemic and what it felt like down there. But, this is, it's cold right now. And I'm not talking about just for winter. Like we're actually going through a bit of a cold snap that started tonight. We'll go into tomorrow. Now, that means it's friggin' cold. Like your face gets... Like you can't move the muscles, it feels that cold. And yet there were still, I estimate, walking through that area, there was probably about 1,500 to 2,000 people still just walking around, having a great time. I grew up close to Toronto, and we have something in Toronto called the Jazz Festival, which I've been to a couple times. And with the Jazz Festival, it's a massive street festival, and you kind of walk through and you got these, these different bands and different vendors and different people playing, and there's just thousands and thousands of people walking around enjoying, and the vibe was very similar to that. Now, yes, there was no jazz music being played, and there was less food being sold, but the families, the people, the vibe, the joy, the happiness, the sense of connection, the sense of unity was very apparent. There's lots of different pockets where people were just they had some people were dancing and they were just kind of having a good time. Music was playing. Like this idea that people are disgruntled and violent is just, it's not accurate in any way, shape or form. And we kind of knew that. And of course we fully trust our team when they came down here and made that assessment. And then now coming and seeing it yourself, you're like, this is just outrageous. It's outrageous that this would be the sentiment continually being shared by mainstream media. And I'll have more on that in a second. But, just to capture the spirit of what the message, seems to be when you walk around, when you're listening to, the trucks play their horns and whether they're honking, whether it's the air horns, whatever it might be, it is loud down there. But like people don't really live close to that area. So it's not like there's an issue with people not being able to sleep right next to where a lot of these trucks are, because there's not really any areas where people were living from what we saw. But the spirit is really like, do you hear us now? This is so much of what's being felt and shared there. Like, do you finally hear us as people? And of course, this is directed towards the Trudeau government, because for the last 2 years, people have been saying like, I'm not so sure about these policies that you're making based around COVID. I'm not so sure about the facts you think you have about COVID. I'm not so sure about the story, the narrative we're being told about COVID. And we have something else to say. And of course, scientists have been censored. People have not been allowed to have a platform to have a different perspective. So we've not got to hear from people. And when you push people long enough, which you could tell all those people feel pushed to the edge, they're going to say, hey, all right, fine, I'm coming to your house, I'm coming to your place of business, and I'm just going to honk all day long, and do you hear us now? And you can feel that when you really just kind of sit and tune into just the constant honking and the strong, long pulls of the air horn that are just going sometimes. And you look around and you see and you feel, it's like, this is obvious. People have had enough, but they're not having enough in this angry, I'm going to come and I'm going to break down your door. They're just saying, no, like, we've had enough, and I know you've been ignoring us, and now you can't. So what are you going to do about it? And that's the vibe. That's what's going on. That's the feeling. So people want to be heard. That's a big one down there. There's a massive sense of love, connection, and unity. It is unavoidable. Anybody who goes down there and doesn't feel that, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't understand that at all. That is what you feel when you go there. And then the other one is a lot of people want Trudeau out. It's obvious. There's a lot of signs. They would love for him to resign. They don't feel he's fit to be there. Myself as a journalist, being objective, I would say that the type of language that he's using is, I think, is outrageous in a lot of ways. And just me as a person, as a human being, looking at what he's doing, I don't think he's fit to lead. I don't think people that are willing to take the type of approach that he has taken is a good thing. I've seen some comments, people talking about the GoFundMe being frozen. So not only has the GoFundMe been frozen, I think GoFundMe just recently ruled that because this protest is no longer a protest, but it's an occupation, they are now going to be returning all the money to the donors. So what this means is that that $10 million is going to be returned to people. So again, looking at the sentiment down there, looking at the amount of food, the amount of volunteer work, the amount of support, the amount of camaraderie, the amount of just everything that's going on down there, I don't think the money is going to be the thing that ends this. I think there's going to be tons of other ways in which people are going to, get the financial support that's needed, if it's needed, which I'm sure in some way, shape, or form it's going to. But this GoFundMe shutting down, I don't believe it's going to be the end. I actually think it's going to end up in raising more money. Anytime, authoritarian means are taken to interrupt things that are happening, those things only get bigger. So, from my perspective, if it is true or reasonable to go down the path that, government was pressuring GoFundMe to end this thing, this is classic government doing their thing. It's going to blow up in their face. It's not going to work out. You're going to see more money come in to these people, and it's going to be okay. So we'll see what happens there. Some of the other things that I wanted to kind of go to here is in Canada, and I've seen this around America and perhaps in Europe as well, but there's been this sentiment that this is extremists and there's violence and this could become a riotous situation, and it's just terrible and it's just uncontrollable, and it's the language coming out of the mouth of media, language coming out of the mouth of the politicians here, the local politicians in Ottawa, the language coming out of the mouth of the police chief. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form match what's happening there at all. You're left speechless, but you're also like, well, what did you expect, right? Because for the last 2 years, mainstream media has shown the degree of egregiousness it's really capable of. And it's showing people, hey, we're willing to basically just completely lie and censor people. And what's happening there and what the media is saying are two completely different things. It almost leads you to the conclusion that I don't know how else to put it other than it's a complete lie. There's at no way are they touching on truth when they keep talking about extremism and violence and riotous situations and dangerous people. Like, I felt more safe there, and there wasn't that many cops, than I felt walking the average street in a neighborhood I grew up in, which was not, a bad neighborhood. It's like at night you're walking around, you're like, oh man, down there it's like, there's nothing dangerous about this. It's just families having fun and people coming together and hugging and just dancing and just it makes no sense. So I would really enjoy if at some point over the next few days, I have the opportunity to approach somebody from CBC Global, CTV, one of these mainstream outlets, and actually just ask them, like, hey, what is it you're interpreting is happening here? Like, I would love to hear their thought process. I would love to hear what's going through their minds, because what we're seeing just makes absolutely no sense. So, this forces you to have to ask the question, how do we come to know the things that we come to know? People that are watching mainstream media, do they have a clear understanding of what's been going on with COVID, right? When we're talking with people who might have been watching mainstream media, like, can we really expect that they're going to agree with different ideas about PCR tests and different ideas about masking and different ideas about lockdowns if all they've heard is misinformation for the last 2 years? Like, it's hard. It's hard to have conversations with people that are coming from a different position. So now then you got to stretch that, and you got to say, well, all these polls that we're always seeing, X amount of people support the mandates, X amount of people support, unvaccinated people being locked in their homes, X amount of people. How can any of these polls have value if the vast majority of people responding to them they cannot answer basic facts about COVID-19? They can't answer basic things like, what is the chances you're going to end up in hospital? What does the vaccine actually do? There's just a massive amount of basic facts around COVID-19 that people just do not have. And so they have a lot of misconceptions. And so, of course, they're going to support bad ideas because their understanding, their current perception is not based in reality. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, after this initial day one, after this initial, scoping of the situation, I can say this: we're going to continue to cover this over the next few days. We're going to have 4 people on the ground here instead of 2, which is, I've been, incredibly grateful for what's been happening so far with our coverage and the support that you guys have given us to help us be down here. And we've doubled that coverage now, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. There's a lot of when we were on our way here, we stopped at a couple of truck stops along the way. And we would go into these buildings where there's restaurants and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff. And, there might be 50, 60 people in there, and, 40% of them weren't wearing masks. And it was great because it was this feeling. A lot of these people are on their way here, right? So they were stopping along the truck stops because they're on their way here. And there's this mass non-compliance in the most beautiful way possible. None of these unmasked people were being disrespectful. None of these unmasked people said anything to anybody. When asked to put on a mask, they said, no, I just have a medical exemption. And I was like, okay, no problem. Moved on. We didn't see anybody doing anything negative to the masked people either. The closest thing we saw was one gentleman who was like, why are you guys all not wearing masks? Like, why are you getting service? Why are you able to put in a food order if you're not wearing a mask? And then he had the perception that, there's COVID everywhere. This whole area is COVID now because nobody was wearing masks. And nobody responded. Nobody said anything to him. No smart aleck remarks, nothing. It was just people were letting him be, letting him have his thoughts and feelings. He was trying to egg other people wearing masks kind of into hey, don't you think this is outrageous? And they were even like, hey, man, I don't know. And the more people were not wearing masks, the more people pulled down their masks, right? So you were seeing this, this moment of people don't want to be doing these mandates. They don't, I mean, even in a recent Angus Reid poll out of Canada here revealed that 54% of people in Canada don't agree with any of the mandates. They want them all dropped. And I would imagine that number is probably even higher. And if people knew basic facts around COVID-19, in essence, there was a bit of a re-education of what's been going on with COVID, I think you would probably see, 80% of people not support the mandates because it just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form when you look at the science. But a lot of people haven't had access to that, to be fair. So yeah, we're going to continue to do it. I just wanted to touch one last thing. I got one more note here on just the police presence. There is not a massive police presence there right now. There are cops on the ground, for sure. I thought it was a very reasonable amount for what was going on down there. They do have some things blocked off. And I will say the police are they're jovial. They're down there. They're low key. They're having fun. A lot of them are cheering on the horns. They're not put it this way, if they were asked to do something of provocation, which I've witnessed with my own eyes at protests before, plainclothes police officers, starting problems so that they could then descend on those problems. Those cops there, what we saw tonight, they would not do that. They would not, because I don't believe that the majority of them are in support of these mandates either. It just doesn't seem to be the case, but I can't confirm that. But yeah, stay in touch, follow our account. We also have videos and various things that we've been doing on our YouTube account as well. You could check us out there if you want to check out, our Telegram channel. There's that as well. If anybody wants to donate, we have links in our bio to help keep our coverage going down here. And that's it. That's all. We'll continue to keep it coming and appreciate all the support. It's incredible to see. This was the last note. This was the first time in, I would say, 2 years where I've gone somewhere publicly. I've been amongst a lot of people and said to myself, oh my God, this is the most hopeful, this is the most excited, this is the most jovial people have been. Like, everybody's happy. There is a sense of like, this is coming to an end. And I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about tyranny. I'm talking about this level of authoritarianism is coming to an end. Those people aren't out there going, yay, COVID's over. Right? It's like, they're going, we've stood up and we're watching the power of the people. We're watching what happens when people decide enough. And the government, I keep saying this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I throw something else out there. But I got another thing I want to say, right? This is Jmart. This is what I do. But why I want to see Trudeau resign is not for anything of spite. It's not a revenge situation for me. I'm talking to you as a person here. I want to see Trudeau resign because I believe politicians need to understand that the people have power again. They're out of control. Politicians are absolutely out of control, and their governments are absolutely out of control. They've come to a position where they've been sitting easy for a very, very long time, knowing that they have absolutely no resistance from people. People can't do anything, right? And they control the masses through media. And if you can get a politician to resign from something like this, it is going to send a shockwave throughout the world, especially the developed world, that says politicians cannot just do whatever the fuck they want anymore. It's over. And that's why I believe Trudeau resigning here is very important. This is a lot of solutions, a lot of the challenges on our planet have to be broken down into near-term and long-term solutions, right? When we talk about solutions, there's some solutions we got to bring now, right? Like ending COVID mandates are a near-term solution that you might classify as, hey, this is an emergency. We got to get this done, right? This is a near-term solution. Is it going to solve all the world's problems? Absolutely not. Governments are still out of control. The long-term solution is having a discussion about how do we create a new system? How do we create a new way of living that does not involve what we're doing now? Of course, that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a long time. Hence, it's a long-term solution. It's a long-term conversation. And while we build to that, there are near-term issues that we got to focus on. So definitely going to have more content on that particular discussion because it's quite a long one. But that's it. That's all. Very hopeful. Appreciate you guys all here. Lots of love. And just tell people about the coverage that we're doing here. We're doing our best to just try and get not only the true story, but really a story of humanity, a story of the love, the touching, the connection, the unity that's happening, and add this human element to what's going on because the mainstream media is really trying to take it away. It's there. So that's it. That's all. Gonna eat some food now. Peace. I have no idea how to end this. There we go.